Okay. All right. So the next question is number three. Islam in the light of the Ummah. Okay. The Islamic Ummah. This is the one that I wanna really stay on for a bit because as you guys have seen, one of my latest videos, I covered this topic, but it was kind of interrupted by people. It was hard for me to put my points across. So a lot of people, when I went to the park, right, and I started talking about Somali history, Somalinimo, and I was running about with the Somali flag and, what does Somalinimo mean, and trying to explain to the best of my knowledge what Somali history is to the people. For some reason, other people, other non-Muslims, never had any problem with what I was preaching or what I was telling people, but rather it was the hardcore so-called, Salafis, or I would like to call them the Wahhabis, who came together and they tried to stop me. Okay, they try to tell me this is asabiya. They try to tell me to speak for your people, to bring your people together, to wave a flag, a banner which which represents your people. It's wrong. Apparently, it's asabiya, and for some reason they don't understand what asabiya means. Okay, and they think because the name asabiya in Arabic, asabiya means tribal. Mafantin. So okay, now if you hate people for the sake of qabil, that's asabiya. If like qabiyalat is asabiya. In Somali, it's called qabiyalat. Okay. Now I wasn't talking about qabil. Rather, I was talking about bringing all the Somalis together, all the qabils together. I was doing a great job. I was doing one of the things that Rasulullah or Islam itself orders us to do to bring people together, to recognize one another. So but the problem is, people had a problem with me waving my flag. People had a problem with it. The amount of times I was approached by Arabs, by blacks, and these are all Muslims, by Somalis, to stop me from doing such stuff. But then the question arises. You see, when people Palestine, we can see they're struggling, I feel their struggle. But then when people like Palestine wave their flag, and they talk about the pain and the troubles their people are going through, and they have this nationalistic representation towards, you know what I mean, and everybody wants to support them. Everybody would wave the flag of Palestine. Everybody would say, let's support Palestine. If anything happened to the Arab world, everybody would be there to support them. But you know what, it was, I think, during the Mahkamah, when the Somali people fell, we had, after the Somali government fell, the Somali people tried to reestablish themselves under a religious court law, and it was called the Mahkamah. And now, the Ethiopian government had a problem. They had a problem with this, and so what they did was they went back to they sought alliance and assistance from the Western world to get rid of these people. And so there was a war in Somalia. The Ethiopians killed over 10,000 Somalis. Okay? Now, when I was in the park, people were telling me, we are one Ummah. We are one Muslim. We are all of this. But I was like, guys, okay, cool, no problem. We are Muslim, but what are you doing to help me? If you're going to stop me from waving one flag, if you think I'm dividing you, then where is this unity that you're talking about? Because I can't see the unity you're talking about. I don't see it. So when Ethiopia was killing 10,000 of my people, right? 10,000, some of them being burnt alive, where was the Muslim Ummah? Where was the so-called Arabs, right? Where was this Ummah that we talk about? Where were they? Okay? When my people was, there are charities, okay, charity organizations which make money out of the poor. They keep asking money, but then money doesn't go anywhere. Nothing changes. The people still stay the same. I'll give you an example. Akon, I think he's from Senegal, right? Akon goes to Senegal and he establishes, he literally establishes, he uses his money to help the poor people in Senegal. And wallahi, he established something in few months, right? He helped people. One of the things that he did was solar lights وكاني العقبوا سي dadka masaakiinta uu quudiyey. and he covered, I don't know the amount, but it was a lot of people, and he managed to do this within a year. But these so-called charities, especially the Muslim charity world, who were trying to say we're trying to help the African people or the suffering Muslim people, they don't help nobody. On top of that, when we come here in the Western world, we have masajids everywhere. Every corner that you go to, there is a masjid, and there's always an imam standing up telling us, yo, we need to collect money to refurnish the masjid. Okay, no problem. But then there are kids and young children dying outside in the streets. What are you doing about that? During the time of the Prophet Muhammad, the masjid was the center of the Muslims. It was the center where problems were solved. It was more like the courtyard. And I think to have 10 masjids in one street should not be allowed. Because to me, it seems like people are making money out of the deen itself. So coming back to the Ummah now, and this is something that I want everybody to have an input on. When it comes to the Ummah, what is the Ummah doing for Somalia? And I want people to see this from a different perspective. You see, the Ottoman Empire, there was a time when the Islamic Ummah, just like we are today, was falling apart. Okay, so the Ottomans, or the root of the Ottoman Empire, right, where it started from, they started as a nomadic people, and these nomads, when they were establishing power and when they were establishing unity, they first started from their own people. They started to uproot the cancerous people within them, and then eventually, surely but slowly, they managed to become the world's most powerful empire, and they ruled for many years. Rasulullah himself, when Allah sent him the message, he said, start from your people, teach your family, and then after that gradually move on to the rest. And that's what he did. So why are people taking why do people think it's wrong for a Somali to get up and speak to his people first, manage their problems, and then once his people are surely advancing and they know what they're doing, then you know what, guys, our Muslim brethren are suffering, let's help them? Why do people see this as a threat for me to get up? I feel like they see it, I don't know, but what do you guys think? Do you think this is a threat? Do you think they see it as a threat? What do they, give me your input, because this is something that actually gets me heated up. So I'm going to start with, who wants to go first? Yeah, go on, AA, 1, 2, 3.
My opinion on the question is, wallahi, the Somali people, I might go off topic, but Somali people, when we had power and wealth, we have done so much help for the whole of the Ummah. But when we were in a time of weakness, no one cared about us.
Exactly.
The 2006 invasion, Ethiopia, the Arabs were supporting them. They were funding the money for them. Why is it us Somali people we want to get off on the ground, we want to help our own people, everyone wants to attack us for being nationalists. What about Arab nationalism? What about that? No one talks about that, but everyone wants to talk about the Somalis in general. Everyone wants to talk about the Somalis in general and say you can't be nationalist. But what about the Arab nationalists? Huh? They're killing Pakistanis, Bengalis that work in Saudi Arabia. They torture them. They beat the hell out of them.
They invade Yemen. They're now right now.
They're bombing their own people. And a lot of these people that tell you are nationalists are Wahhabis, and they've been funded by the Saudi government. And what's the Saudi government? Arab nationalists, to the hardcore Arab nationalists. I'd like to go back on the topic. I personally believe, you look at the Ottoman Empire, their people were dying in Anatolia Plateau. They were separated, they were divided into different beyliks. When the Ottoman came, their first goal was about what? Helping their own Turkish people. What did they do after they helped their own people? Then they started to focus on themselves. They started to build a Turkish nationalist. We are Turks. Our enemy, the Byzantine. The Somalis did the same thing. We are divided amongst each other. We are killing each other. We can't help out no one out until we help ourselves.
100%.
Until we get our place into a better situation where we have a peaceful country, where we have a successful running economy, our people are not down in poverty and diseases and everything, and we have a healthcare system, then we'll be like, oh, we'll help the Ummah when we're doing good. You understand?
So.
And it's also funny, it's wallahi, they never you look at all these charity groups that always talk about Somalia. All it is money laundering. All they're doing are money laundering. They're manipulating us and using us for their own agenda. Where were the people in 2011 famine? No one was there. The only people who helped us was our own people.
100%. Wallahi, that's true. And also, just to add to that, the same so-called Muslim Ummah, right? For instance, a lot of people love to overpraise Gaddafi. You know, you'd hear even like Pan Africanists are one of the people who do this. They would be like Gaddafi this, Gaddafi that. But people don't know that Gaddafi was the backbone. Like he was the essence, the reason, one of the reasons why Somalia collapsed. He campaigned against Somali people. He supported Ethiopia to overthrow the Somali government. So what? Where's the Ummah? And this is a guy who's attributed to have built about many mosques in Africa. You know, he was, you know, at some point people thought he was going to be the leader of Islam and all of this. But where's the Ummah though? He destroyed the whole Ummah. He destroyed the whole people because he felt, someone told me he felt jealous because Siad Barre was getting all the attention, which he, you know, because at the end of the day, at some point Siad Barre was speaking for Africa. They even made songs about Africa during his time. So I don't want to, I'll continue that later. I'm going to move to Jalebi, but I feel like he's got something to say.
Yeah, I just want to start off by reading an excerpt from the Quran. This is Surah Al-Imran, verse 103. It says, "Hold fast to God's rope all together. Do not split into factions. Remember God's favor to you. You were enemies, then he brought your hearts together, and you became brothers by his grace. You were about to fall into a pit of fire, and he saved you from it. In this way, God makes his revelations clear to you so that you may be rightly guided." So, understanding this as Muslims and as the Ummah, we need to now look at it in a pragmatic sense, right? So, the partitioning of our lands started, well, particularly in Africa, 1885 in the Berlin Conference was when the borders were created in our lands. And whoever's ruling and presiding over these countries has no autonomy and no authority over their lands in a true sense. So when you're talking about Gaddafi, really and truly, he did not have power to a extreme sense, because you see how he ended up when he tried to rebel against the European powers. And the same way with the Arabs, with the Sykes-Picot Agreement, their borders have been partitioned and their rulers have been placed in order to divide us as a people and in order to subvert our knowledge and our understanding of what the Ummah truly is. So what I think the 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 question is regarding is that us as Muslims, we have an ideological warfare that is being waged against us in order to keep us divided. Because of course, the Arabian rulers, like let's read a quote from Mohammed bin Salman here. Let me just pull it up for you. So when he was asked about the repression of the Uyghurs in China, Mohammed bin Salman, the leader of Saudi Arabia, the man that presides over Mecca and Medina, has said, "China has the right to carry out anti-terrorism and de-extremization work for its national security." So this man, as a Muslim leader that presides over two of the most holy sites of Islam, is now advocating, let's forget the anti-terrorism, because we can say that there are Khawarij people within Islam and they did kill two of our Khulafa al-Rashidin.
So,
But de-extremization, like this is clearly propagating the Chinese agenda against Islam. So can we say that really and truly we can depend on these leaders and rulers to be having our back as Muslims?
Can
no.
I say
But
something?
yeah,
Go on, bro.
Sorry, Jollibee, for interrupting. But
no
people
worries.
need to realize, like, I'm not gonna be rude, but majority Arabs today are hardcore Arab nationalists, pan-Arabs. They don't give a two goddamn floss about the Ummah.
True.
They don't care. And Somalis need to wake up and realize we have to fend for ourselves. Our own prophet, what did he do? Did he go after running after his own people, or other people, when his own people died from famine and food?
No.
No, he worked and cared and provided and tried to unify his people first. Once he unified his people, he cared about other people. We need to do the same for our own people.
So, wallahi, well put.
100%.
Well put. I couldn't say more. Jalebi, do you want to continue or still got something to say?
Yeah,
Go on.
so I'm just gonna go off what A Huncho just said is
Yeah.
100% us as Somalis, we need to look within in order to come forth, because how the system of the world has been structured is against us, because as a nation, we are very strategic. We have the most strategic waterways in the world, one of the most strategic waterways in the world. We have mineral resources in the hundreds of billions. We have iron deposits, and we have a lot of wealth that can be extracted. And this is a repression against our people in order for us to not move forward. And this is being propagated and being put forth by the Arabs themselves, because they see us as a potential threat. But these people, as we have just now shown, are not working for the interests of Muslims, and they're working for their own personal interests. So, of course, as bad as it sounds, Somalis need to work for our own personal interests. And once we get to a certain level, I know as Somalis, we always fall on the right side of history when it comes to humanitarian affairs. We can then look out and help others. But first, we need to look within, Allah.
100%. Ayuncho, solo something.
Yeah. Just to add to the brother that just spoke. Personally, like he said, it's the partitioning and the current political status of the world. Realistically speaking, to be frank, the Ummah is dead. There is no real Ummah. There is no unity within Islam.
I
So
agree
when
with you.
people go around saying you're causing fitna in the Ummah, you're doing this to the Ummah's gone. There is no Ummah. It's a dream. It's
Yeah.
honestly a dream. Like, there is no Ummah.
But his
like
brother,
the
sorry, yeah.
yeah,
But
like
Wait, let him
sorry,
finish.
go
Let
on,
him
brother.
finish. Let him finish.
No. I want to hear. It's no
Okay.
problem.
Yeah.
Go on.
Go on.
So I believe that the Ummah lives within the hearts of the Muslimin. So
100%.
of course we can't conflate two different issues. You see, the people that follow Muhammad bin Salman and those despotic rulers and leaders, throw them in the bin, wallahi billah. That's those people, we don't need them. But there are true Muslimin that in their heart is pure, their heart is pure and they have purity in their heart, and they understand that we will never have power unless we as Muslims unite entirely.
Yeah, but I understand that, brother. Wallahi, I have no disagreement with that. As Muslims in our heart, we yearn for unity, 100%. But the cold, hard facts is when you look at the world today, there is no unity. There's no unity amongst Arabs, let alone Muslim. There's Arab nations today that are signing peace treaty deals with Israel. They have given up on the Palestinian cause entirely. Arabs themselves have given up on the Palestinian cause. So why are we Somalis still marching for this Palestinian? I have no problem with Somalis aiding and helping the Palestinians alongside the Ummah. But if the Arabs themselves have betrayed their Palestinian brothers, then there's nothing a Somali can do, a Bangladeshi can do, an Indonesian can do. This is beyond our reach. Do you understand what I mean?
The only time we can establish this is, like, first of all, like I said, if we manage to fix ourselves, and if the Somalis rise up to be a great, powerful nation, then maybe we would have the ability to campaign against these atrocities, which is being done to the Palestinians. And if we take such a step, then who even knows, other African Muslims might come in unity to help us with this cause, and maybe this could eventually create an empire, a unity, in the name of Islam all over again. And Somalia, once again, just like Turkey was, Somalia could be the center of Islam. Somalia can be the one that revives the Ummah all over again. Do you understand? There's a hadith that says that we are all destined to go to heaven and hell. This means that we are all destined to, like, for a path, but what you do or how you go there is in your hands. So some prophecies might say, okay, the Turks would one day support the Muslims, and the Ummah would be brought back and all of that. But coming back to the point is that maybe Somalia could be the ones that rekindle that prophecy, the ones that bring that prophecy back to life. You understand? So the point is, let's fix ourselves, and then maybe the Ummah can rise again. That's after. Go on.
Yeah, 100%. But back to your initial point with the Arabs at the park, I want to go back to that.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems that non-Somalis have with Somalis is our pride. Biggest factor.
So
It's not just Arabs who hate it. You know, the white people when the
100%,
British
100%.
came to Somalia, they realized our arrogance and our pride and our dignity and our self-confidence. You know,
yep, yep.
and it rubs people up the wrong way. It honestly bothers people, and I can understand them, because when you look at Somalis outside looking in, it's what have you got to be so prideful of? You know, you come from a failed state, you're a refugee. Why? Where does this kibir come from? And it's a serious question. But we Somalis, we know where the kibir comes from. You know, we take pride in our lineage, our family, our language. This we take pride in it naturally. But they don't understand that, and that naturally brings conflict. That's just my opinion. That's why people have an issue with Somalis, and it's not just Arabs, it's the whites, it's the blacks, you name it. Somalis have an issue with them, and they have an issue with us.
I'm gonna give it to Gail. Julabi, I'll come back to you. Gail, bro, what's your? Can you say your point, please?
Yeah, of course. Anyhow, the Ummah has been dead since the fall of the Ottoman Caliphate.
Okay.
So it's been since 1925 or something. After that,
1949.
hasn't been 1940. Yeah, 1940. You know. Anyway, there hasn't been an Ummah since then, and that's besides the point. Because if you're looking at the history of our people, we've never been part of like a caliphate. We've never been part of the early Arab caliphates
Yeah.
of the Abbasids, the Umayyads. We've only been somehow connected with the Ottoman Khilafah, and that was a non-Arab Khilafah.
Yeah, they were like
And
our
the story
allies.
yeah, they were our allies, and it was a non-Arab Khilafah, so we've never been a part of what scholars call like the actual Khilafah, the three early Khilafahs, the Abbasids, and I think the Rashiduns. And the Rashiduns were the four main caliphs of Islam. I think Umar, Abu Bakr, and basically the four Sahabas, and then the Umayyads, the Abbasids straight after. Anyhow, even the Somalis at the time, we weren't even a part of that. So I don't get this whole Ummah unity thing. Are we supposed to be like under one umbrella of governance or what? Basically, that hasn't been a reality before, and it's not going to be a reality in the future either. But we can like be our, we could be Somali and we could be Muslim in it. We can have our own independence, but we can still have a brotherly relationship through trade. Through trade, we can still have links with each other. We can still support one another. I'm not sure beyond that, are we supposed to have like one monologue identity? It's never happened. Besides the point, I think the collapse of the Umayyads has been linked to the fact that the Arabs at the time were pushing their identity, their culture on the Turks, on the Kurds, and especially the Persians. At the time, the Abbasids took over from the Umayyads because of the Umayyads. I think they had like a system where they put the early believers, like the Arab Muslims, above the newly converted Muslims who were at the bottom. So it was like a hierarchy, and from that discrimination, the Turks and then I think the Berbers as well revolted, and they started their own dynasties, and then the Persians and then the other non-Arab Muslims sided with the new Abbasids to take over power. Since then, after a while, even the Abbasids started to lose power to the Turkish and Kurdish Persian dynasties, who all started to gain their independence. And since then, because it's mostly linked with the discrimination policies of the earlier Arab caliphate, so they weren't even perfect. So I don't understand whenever these people come or asking for, I think what they ask for is like khilafah or whatever. It didn't work in the past, and because of why it didn't work, at the time the Turks were able to take advantage to create their own khilafah, because the Turks appealed to the non-Muslim, to the newly converted Muslims like Somalis, Persians, Kurds, because at the time people were sick of the Arabs and their the discrimination policies that they put in place before, which is another reason why people accepted to have Turks lead Islam, or to have why people were more closer with the Turks, why we were more closer with the Turks as well. So at the end of the day, we moved on from that, and the Arabs at the end betrayed the Turks, and I think it was in the First World War, they went against them and revolted, and that was the end of the Khilafah from there.
Under the advice of the British, yeah.
Yeah, they took sides with the British, and then because they had enough of the Turkish Khilafah, and they wanted. I think at the time they also said that that an Arab should be the leader of the Khilafah, and they had this disagreement or whatever, and then the Arabs revolted and they wanted to claim back what they felt belonged to them, and since then there hasn't been an Ummah.
Yeah,
So
the British wanted to give power over the Arabs to the Sharif of Mecca, who they also paid, who was a paid agent. And when that failed, they tried to put his sons on different thrones in different parts of the Arabian Peninsula. And now, to this day, the Jordan royal family descend from that Sheikh Sharif of Mecca,
who is in turn a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. They're called the Hashemites.
Yeah, so they had the Hashemites.
Yeah.
But
and
here's
also,
the problem I have, right?
Go on.
But
let me give time, because I'm gonna get back to you guys, because I want Beast Boy to say something, and also Queen Aroelo. She hasn't said anything, so and then we can continue with the topic. Beast Boy, bro, what's your input on this whole Ummah thing when it comes to because like I said, it hasn't been any help to the Somalis until now.
Bro, I think with the Muslim Ummah, it hasn't benefited the Somalis. There's nothing worth praising them for.
Okay.
In fact, there's evidence that the Arabs, so-called our brothers, try to, get rid of us. Take Emirates and Saudi Arabia as an example, what they do into Somalis every day. And I feel like we need a solution to get ahead. What can we do after the Muslim Ummah? We need a solution, obviously. So if you take the Jews as an example, I mean, some of you live in London. If you go to North London, Stamford Hill, you'll see a lot of Jews, and every time they're getting attacked, but they don't really care because they have this pride in them. So I feel as a Somalis, we shouldn't really care about the one Ummah, and we should focus on ourselves. And if you look at Pakistan now, they didn't depend on the one Ummah. They have nuclear now, so they're one of the superpowers. So why can we not be like them?
100%.
So that's my main input on this, bro.
Cool. Thank you very much. One of the things I wanted to add to this is, like, since we were talking about this family, the Al-Bashir guy, when the family of Saud took over and the British signed him a salary, like about a £5,000 salary every month, to support him and to help the British with foot soldiers to overthrow the Ottoman Empire. So his people, the so-called Ikhwan, they asked him the question, and the Saud, these are the same people who rule today, and these are the same people who propagate this Wahhabism mentality. And also, if you what I'm about to say, Adam Maqashid is very much similar to these people, what they believe today. So so they asked this Saud guy, like, yo, what's up, man? Like, why are you taking money from these people? Why are they paying you? Because they were suspicious. And he said, nah, they're not actually paying me. I'm taking I'm taking
I remember that. I remember that story.
My guy
and
said,
they believed him. That's what's crazy. They believed him.
Yeah, and they believed him. That's why when I was debating with these guys at the park, and I told them, "Are you just gonna believe something because someone said it?" It's like, yeah, it's if it's the haqq, then I'm gonna follow it blindly. But then, how do you know it's the haqq if you're following it blindly? Like, what kind of mentality are you on?
Other religions are mostly based on blind faith, whereas Islam teaches you to
think,
learn, to make logic. It's a logical religion, Things have to fit into a box, and if something goes against your natural inclination and common sense, then it's probably not right.
100%.
Bro, but
100%.
I think majority of Muslims just blindly follow without thinking, and that's causing an issue, you see.
Of course, there's a lot of people who inherit Islam, even though, of course, a lot of us here, probably our parents are born Muslims and we were born Muslims, but you still make your own journey to the deen,
Yeah.
like you fall in love with it individually. But there are a lot of people who inherit the deen and don't fall in love with it.
All right, so let me give the mic to Queen Arawelo. Well, Ala, what do you think of this whole Ummah thing? Like, what's your input on this? And okay, go on, Maka. No shake.
I think the Ummah, it's designed to, unify us as Muslims, but really it hasn't unified us at all. I think it's really divided. There's no sense of community when you look at Muslims all around the world, honestly. And I completely 100% agree that if we don't help ourselves as Somali people, and if we don't have, in a way, I mean, some people might see it as selfish, but I don't think it's at all, because if we work on ourselves, then we can contribute and we can uh benefit the Ummah as a whole. And I think the Ummah is painted with this like rosy like picture of we're all united under one umbrella, but really there isn't. And there's a lot of examples like Julia we said earlier, a leader, a Muslim leader, right? That we in some way, we have respect for. Well, not anymore, but doesn't has turned his back on his Muslim brothers and sisters. There is no unity, and if we don't help ourselves, no one will, and we will go deep, like to our downfall. So that's why
So basically, we should put the people first. Let's try to guide ourselves into the right path.
I think yes, I think we should put ourselves first. In order to benefit the Ummah, we can't benefit the Ummah in the state we are in at the moment. We're so divided ourselves as Somali people. We can't benefit anyone else. And we have as well enemies, right? People we should be calling our Muslim brothers and sisters are our enemies, and they're planning our downfall. And there's no like sympathy or looking towards each other as brothers and sisters. There's none of that. It's just pretend at the moment. It's just I think it's a fake like colorful picture that we paint so that outsiders that aren't Muslim can be like can look in and be like, oh look, they're so united, but really there's a lot of division. I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of prejudice, and there's a lot of there's this hierarchy as well that I also think is dividing us as a whole. And so as Muslims, I don't think we're united as all at all, and we should put ourselves first.
Can
Okay,
I say something?
go on, bro.
Sorry for interrupting again, but
No problem.
we need to talk about the racism within the Muslim community. No one is talking about that. No one doesn't talk about how Turkey is a secular republic today. They don't give a two floss about the Ummah no more. You know why? They saw in the first hand how they got backstabbed. They were literally about to be occupied. If it wasn't for Mustafa Kemal, these men would have been occupied today. They would have lost all of Anatolia.
So Mustafa
And
Kemal is secularist guy, man. We can't be supporting him.
But he was there
agenda.
for a reason.
We can't support
there for a
Mustafa
reason.
Kemal, man.
No, it's
No,
not.
but he was there
It's
for a
not
reason.
about supporting, because if Mustafa Kemal didn't come into power, then for some reason, subhanallah, the Turkish political system could have been infringed occupied by other foreigners, like especially the Arabs, who were very eager to get hold of them. Do you understand?
No, I understand that, but that's one narrative. I don't think the Arabs could have even taken the Anatolian Peninsula. By force.
It's possible. I don't know.
But,
No, I respect Mustafa Kemal. You know why? He saved his people in a desperate time.
Yeah. We're
If I
going
could just add as well.
Here's the thing, right? Is I believe that we're conflating the fallible rulers of Islam with the infallibility of the Islamic doctrine itself. So in the Quran, it clearly states that you should spend your wealth in charity. Surah 57, verse 7. And it says, encourage feeding the poor, help those in need by finding them. You know, Surah 2, verse 273. So us as Muslims, we're instructed, and especially the leaders, help those in need by finding them. So you have to go out and look for them. And any ruler or Muslim leader that fails to do so is now not following the correct Shariahs of Islam. So therefore, we need to be able to put aside those who are not, I'm not saying they're not Muslims, but they're not following Islam as they should. Because if the rulers and the Muslim leaders did follow Islam as they should, none of these things would happen. So we have to put those two distinctions aside. And the other thing that I'm going to speak about is the Ummah itself. The Ummah is just the people who claim Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. So, and if you're not even within the same state, or you're not benefiting each other directly, you are still part of the same Ummah. The thing about it is the governance of the Khilafat, once that was broken down and nationalism went into the hearts of the people, like my brother AA just said, with the fall of the Turks, that's when you become marginalized and you become sectarianized and you lose your autonomy and authority, wallah. But we need to stop conflating the two things. We need to understand that the Ummah is alive, is thriving. We're 2 billion strong as of today. And wallahi, we have, as the same way Somalis can move forward and the same way Somalis can gain power, the Ummah can also do that. And we should strive and pray for that.
Bro, we I like the input, the way you said it, like the Ummah is still alive. So I think I'm saying, like, okay, the Ummah is there, like, la ilaha illallah, we are all one Ummah, khalas, no problem. But I don't like how people use the name Ummah, right, to push me down, to make me feel like I'm doing something wrong when I'm trying to support my people, when I'm trying to get my people's hopes up. I don't want to be pushed down,
100%.
because this is what they're doing. I haven't got a problem with the name Ummah, but I've got a problem with the way they use it. And the people who use this Ummah thing for that purpose are the Wahhabis, are the extremists. And I hate to use the word extremist, because this is a word that non-Muslims use to put down Muslims. But there's a reason why this word exists, because there are people
Khawarij.
among us who, the Khawarij, you understand? So, and also today, the Khawarij, they've become the central power of, anyone who controls Mecca and Medina are the central power of the Muslims. So our central power, it's not in the right hands. So I'm saying, okay, cool, we're all Muslims, we believe in Allah, Jannah, Adab, Rasulullah, Ummah, no problem, but let's focus on our people, khalas. And then after that, maybe once we
100%.
fix ourselves, then we can move on.
To be
I
honest,
get what you're saying, yeah. But here's the thing, right? Is that the system in the world as of right now necessitates that there is a poor man so that there can be a rich man.
Mhm.
The whole system of the world as of right now is in such. So now, who got the short end of the stick? Because of the Muslims revolting against their own Khalifa, because of the Muslims wanting nationalism, because of the Muslims fighting for these things, now it is predominantly Muslim nations that are in turmoil and that are burning. Now it's Iraq that are 1 million strong. 1 million people have died in this century. And it's Palestine that is burning as of right now. It is Somalia that is burning as of right now. And within the Western countries that are extracting resources, they are rich, but it necessitates for us to be poor. And this is what the fallible rulers of Islam have subscribed to. This is the laws and the rulership that they want. So, of course, I understand what you're saying is that that people weaponize the word Ummah against you. But the Ummah itself is like-minded people such as me and you that believe in Allah, that have Tawheed, and we follow the same rulings. And I'll go back to it once more. It says that we should help people by finding them. That these are the rulings of our Islam, and the world that we live in right now necessitates for someone to be poor in order for another man to be rich. 30,000 people die every day due to starvation. This is a necessity. But for us as Muslims that believe in the same thing, what we need to do is we need to understand that if there is someone in need, they don't need to come to us, we need to go to them. So as a ummah, if we all come together and we understand that we have our own system of governance and we can apply it, and I'm taking these words straight out of the Quran, my brother. If we apply this to our lives as a unit, then wallahi our lives can go a lot further. But as of now, we need to look within, because the rest of the ummah has been mentally and physically indoctrinated and completely encapsulated.
Yeah, brother. Theoretically, I do agree with you, but my disagreement is in the practicality of what you're saying.
Yes.
You know,
Same.
the real life, like, application of what you're saying is just untrue. And like the brother said, I don't see the unity of the Ummah until the Mahdi. There is no reason for Muslims today to now unify other than with the Mahdi. And there are many hadiths that suggest a time period where the Muslims will be large in number, weak in power. You know, the hadith where once the sword is withdrawn from the sheath, that the Muslims will never stop fighting, and it will be, and the only hadith that stops that hadith is the coming of the Mahdi, where there will be peace, and after the jihad,
Yes.
that's the only time that is peace will be brought back to the Muslims. So the idea of a peaceful ummah that helps each other, that coexists, is a dream, in my opinion. Personally, I just don't
True.
see it practically happening. You know.
Practically, I
But
understand, but
wait, and I agree with you. You know, we can help Muslims, but you know, Somalis are Muslims. I don't have to help a Bangladeshi Muslim. I don't have to help an Arab Muslim. I can help a Somali Muslim. That doesn't take away from the ashar that I was going to get. You know what I mean? I can help my people. They are just as Muslim as anyone else.
100%.
Yeah,
But
that's
the
all I
thing is,
wanted to say.
Akhi, you see, like, if a Bangladeshi man and a Muslim man, two different people from two different sides of the world, but both share the same ideology, why is it that a border should disunite you or your skin color should disunite you? That's what I'm trying to say, is that there's been ideological warfare, that mental warfare that has been in place for a long time within
No,
our
but
people, and it's been superimposed on us. So if we as Muslims that carry Tawheed decide, of course it's a very long shot, and it's you're always going to have people that oppose you and fight against you, and what you're saying is 100% factual. But if we have a ummah that all believe in the same thing, I'm saying we can lead a better life.
Yeah.
But we can't turn our backs on them. You know what I'm saying?
What about
We need to.
racism?
no,
What
but
about
brother, I'm not talking about turning back. Wallahi, if every Somali right now could help every Muslim in the world, they would. You know, no hesitation.
yes?
We
We
all
Facts.
would.
would. If we could all press a button to end world poverty, we would. You know,
Facts.
that's not the issue though. Like, I 100% believe all Muslims want unity. They want peace. They want wealth. They want, they want a good life in this dunya and in the next. But the
Mhm.
reality is that in the whole of human history, Somalis could never help Bangladeshis. When there's a flood in Bangladesh, Somalis can't do nothing from East Africa. We can't help anyone. We can only help those around us in our immediate area,
Yes.
and our own people. That's it. So my point is, it's just, I agree with you theoretically, but practically, it's not applicable for me personally.
But
What
you
about
see,
racism? You know, the racism within the
racism.
Arab community. They call us Abid. They call us derogatory terms. What about that?
That's
I
Jahiliyyah.
personally, I don't want to internalize like
But
the
we have to
victim
talk about that.
mentality. No,
No, we have to
Yeah,
man.
talk about.
bro.
Well, we have to talk
No,
about
no,
it.
no, bro. For me, it's like, as a Somali, I don't like talking about, like, victim mentality. That's
It's not
showing
victim
weakness,
mentality.
bro. Look,
Yeah,
look,
no,
look.
I
I
understand,
nigga,
bro.
no, no, bro. Look, they call us
Of course.
Abid and all of that. But I know we
You
call
know
them
you're not.
something worse, bro. You know how we look down on these people, bro. Like even when they come to
Yeah, true,
Somalia,
true.
you know, you seen the way we treat them. My fante. So if we go
Yes,
to
true.
their land, if they treat us in a certain way, obviously that's we 50-50, you know, win-win for everybody.
Yes,
Exactly.
But
But do
for
hundred
us
tell
to
percent.
you
complain,
that
bro, look, for us to complain as if we're coming from a weak point of view, I don't like. I mean, it's true that such thing exists, but also it's true such thing exists within Somalia. Somalis are also racist to Arabs too, but the reason why we're racist to Arabs because they earned it, you know, from us. They
Yes,
they they put us in that state. But you know, but coming back to the Halli rather, something that my brother Julaybib touched on, regarding, you know, the Ummah, right? Borders. He talked about borders. The thing is, uh, there should be borders. There should be borders that divides us and other people, right? And the reason why this should be is because we need to know who comes in and who comes out. You know, it doesn't matter whether they are Muslims or not. A very good example is the Galedi Sultanate, right? The Giledi Sultanate, they were allowing people in, but they also had hierarchies, right? They had hierarchies. And the hierarchies were like, you had the Gibil Mado and the Gibil Ad, and then you had the Habash. Now, the Habash were not just excluded to Ethiopians, but they were also, you know, also Mahalla Bantus and other Africans. So the Habash were mainly either servants, farmers,
basically
or slaves. And then you had, no,
non-Somali.
yeah, so non-Somalis, and then you had the Gibil Mado. The Gibil Mado were the royal family, and these were the real Somalis. And you know, and then under the Gibil Mado was the Gibil Ad. Now, Gibil in of Somali means jilib, right, or the forest skin of your knee, right? So that's where you have a lot of skin. So if you're dark skin, your knee will be a bit darker compared to your skin. So it just means dark skin basically, you know, or dark knee, but it mainly means dark skin. And Gibilad means light skin or white. So the white people were Arabs, and so it was a taboo to marry from the Arabs, right? The Gibil Mado also, they were very wary about the Arabs because they were associated with sorcery, magic, and all sorts of محلها, uh, um, uh, 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 degenerate things that were not known in the Somali culture. You know, they ate and killed or hunted wild animals, and this was something that the Somalis found really intolerable because you're only allowed to eat what you care for. You know, only your محلها domestic animals that you have, you know, sweated and worked hard for. The rest of the other animals in the wild were meant, I mean, these were seen as God's animals. You're not allowed to touch it because you're not the one who looks after them. It's God. You understand? But the Arabs came and they broke that rule. And, you know, for us, if even the white man, when the white man came, and this, we first of all we welcomed them like, you know, as if they were normal good people. But then once they started hunting, the Somalis were like, nah, these guys are degenerate. Like, what the hell are they doing? You know? Because this is how we used to find out if a person is worth a respect. So coming back to the point, borders are really important, and we need to, and also people just come and infringe, and you know, they just because we are Muslims, and Arab will go to Somalia and try start mining. You say like, ittaqillah ya muslimin, fear Allah, we are all one ummah, and I'm here to help my Muslim brothers to mahalla to get gold. Once he gets the gold, he takes most of it and he gives a few percentage to the Somalis, and he goes back home rich. We don't want this. So we need to know who's coming in and who's coming out. Just not disconnecting from the ummah. This is you monitoring your borders and who comes in and who goes out. Do you get what I
But
mean?
Akhi, you see what it is that at one point there was no borders from the Balkans to Iraq,
That's not
from
true, bro.
Constantinople from Constantinople to Mecca and Medina to the
Bro, but
Hijaz region.
yeah,
There
I
was
know
no
what you're saying,
borders.
but that did not apply
So
to the Somali
No, but
world.
I
even then,
understand, I understand,
politically there
but
was no
practically,
borders.
Huh?
Politically there was no borders, but this area, this landmass was split into provinces and
yeah,
different states
vilayets,
that were governed by different people
of
that were
course,
garrisoned with their own army. So it's
There's
not as simplistic as you're making it.
of course,
You know what I
I'm not,
mean?
yeah, of course, I understand, but the thing is, right, is now when you create a border in order to sectarianize yourself from your neighbor in terms of you have the same ideology, you have the same goals you want to work for, you want to move forward in the same way, and now you basically stop yourself with a line in this, not even yourself, because these borders were superimposed on us, but if you want to like divide yourself from your own brethren, then there is a causation for war in the future.
Yeah, but
You know what I'm
bro,
saying?
my own
Like I
brethren.
started this whole thing.
Yeah.
The way I started it, it was hold from Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, hold fast to God's rope all together. Do not split into factions. So this is coming straight from the Quran. We should not split into factions. Of course, it is a very impractical thing to say in this day and age. But these borders that are created from the Sykes-Picot Agreement and from the Berlin Conference in 1885 and 1919, respectively, has been superimposed and mandated for us. We didn't even choose these borders. We didn't even want these borders. A white man got a pen and paper and drew these borders for us. And now we're advocating for these borders. These things can't run no more, my bro. Like, even if there are borders, like my brother Khalid just said, yeah, borders are necessary, but they need to be drawn on your own accord. You can't have someone else's borders and then you want to apply your own laws and your own jurisdictions upon those borders.
Yeah.
That can't run.
Okay, but the thing is, bro, you pointed out a ayah that talks about fractions within the ummah. The fractions that we're talking about, it's not the people. Like at the end of the day, every race is separate from the other race. What they do in their internal regions has nothing to do with the deen, as long as they are Muslims and they fear Allah. Now, that fraction thing is talking about sectism within the Muslim world. Like Allah says, do not, cause sectism within the deen, because it's not good for us, and it leads to a path of jahiliyyah. Now, I'm just to mahalla conclude. I think us Somalis segregating ourselves, at this moment. I mean, when I say segregating, of course, we need political allies, people that we can trust politically. Not that because we think they are our brothers. None of that soft stuff, man. We don't want to be too soft towards people, but political allies, people who have interest in what we have and we have interest in what they have. Once we can build something like that, that is good. It doesn't matter what deen they are. It doesn't matter whether they're Muslim, Christian, I don't know what they are. As long as basically the intent is like we're doing trade and prosperity, and we want prosperity for both. I mean, Rasulullah did not say it's haram to trade with the non-Muslims. Trade is trade, and through trade, people learn each other, and they, that's how knowledge, comes about. So, yeah, that's my point. So at the end of the day, I'm just saying Somalis for Somalia for Somalis, because the Ummah. I'm gonna repeat what my brother Ayuncho and AA has said. The Ummah is dead. Wallahi, the janaza has not been done yet, but the Ummah is dead. You understand?
Brothers, like, we're conflating two things, right? Is the Ummah and the Khilafat. Because if you have a Khalif, and he basically calls for jihad, all Muslims need to answer to that call, because he is the patriarch of all Muslims. Every Muslim falls under his law. Even if you have your own, like, your own provinces and you have your own garrisons and your own rulers, you can't be the Khalif. So the Khilafat is dead. Understood. You see, Abdul Hamid, the last most effective Khalif of Islam, he was trying to make a railway, and he called out to all the Muslims of the world to invest into this railway. And all the Muslims in the world, they all answered. Why? Even though Muslims in India were under the law and the rule of Britain and their despoticness and their evil, they still pledged their allegiance and sent their contributions. This is what the Khalifa and the Khilafat is. The Ummah is the amalgamation of Muslimin itself. And
Okay,
we
yeah,
have...
but sorry, go on. I'll let you finish, bro.
Go ahead, my bro.
I was gonna say I understand your point, but you can't separate the two. Do you understand? Like, with the Ummah is a vehicle, and the Khalif is the driver, and this vehicle does not go anywhere without a driver. So you saying that the Ummah is still exists is You're gonna sit in a car with no driver, going nowhere, with no progression. You know what I mean? There is no destination currently with this ummah at all. Because like you said, it needs like you said, it needs a system, the Khalif, to push the ummah in a cohesive manner in one direction, which is non-existent.
Yeah, and
So
also
yeah, sorry, go on.
no, and also for a Khalif, I mean, I think it's about time the Somalis, you know, established this Khalif that we're talking about, you know, and to do that, all you have to do is for the Somali people to unite under one banner, under the banner of Somalinimo, and then, you know, after we do this, yeah, and we have a central power, and then after that, once we are powerful enough to help the Muslims, then once people see, or the Muslims see that we are generous towards them, then we might get Mahalirada. Other Muslims might see us as a true Muslim people who are truly trying to help the Muslim world. And from there, what we can do is we can establish a Mahalira small caliphate or something. I don't want to use the word caliphate because it has been over Mahalira exaggerated in a very effed up way. But I'm just gonna say we Somalis can rekindle this thing. But to do that though, like the Ottomans, the Ottoman roots or the Ottoman ancestors have done, we need to start from scratch and we need to unite ourselves, you know, under this Somalinimo banner. You understand? And Somalinimo, a lot of people say, oh, but that's not Islam, that's not blah. But to be a Somali and Somalinimo and Islam is kind of intertwined anyways. You can't separate the two. But at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. To me, the Ummah, I mean, when I say Ummah, for me, the Ummah is like the unity of the Muslims. And now that idea of unity of Islam is not there. There are Muslims who try to help other Muslims, you know, but that unity is gone. We don't have that at all. And our leaders are under the influence, or they are being used as tools by foreign powers. You
Let's
understand?
say,
They're puppets, wallah.
Yeah,
Like, you see,
let's say if the Ummah unifies today, what system are we gonna have? Is it
Yeah.
gonna protect
Bro,
Somali
I
culture,
think we need
language?
to. I
Go
think we
on,
need to
Beast Boy.
first, bro, focus on ourselves before we go into this ummah and worry about something else.
Yeah.
And coming back to the borders, we should have a borders. It's very important because Somalis are homogenous people, bro. We'll lose ourselves if we let everyone just in. We can't do that realistically. Plus, there's clans, bro, and I don't think they're gonna allow that. You know, Somalis, as you know, there's a lot of tension between the clans. So just opening the border and letting new people in, I think that is just gonna destroy
that's a
us.
very good point you made there, because if we should have borders, especially talking about Somalia, then each clan is going to advocate to have their own borders. Each clan is going to want their own land.
Exactly, yeah.
So
It's
everyone's
gonna be
going
another
to
issue.
exactly, brother.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about borders, truthfully,
But
akhi,
that's not what he means. Though.
every single border within the Middle East and Africa was not drawn and made by a black or Arab man. This is a fact.
We know that,
No,
bro. We understand that.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
No, there's one
So
thing that we're getting confused about.
Very much, man. That was very informative. Baba Tunde, we have someone new coming in. So has anyone got to say any more on this Ummah subject, or I should move on to the next category?
After
quickly.
All right, Julaibib and AA would say the last input,
And I just think
or even Beast Boy if you have something to say. Go on.
Somalis are ethno-religion group.
Okay.
I don't know why people are trying to say that we're not. You can't be Somali and you can't be Muslim first, because we're 100% Muslim. And also, I want to add, if the Muslim New World unifies, how are we going to protect the Somali language and culture? Tell me.
Sir.
How are we going to protect it? If you want to unify, we need to have a system that's going to protect our language, our culture, and our population. I'm not going to join nothing that's going to force me to speak one language. I have one culture. That's all I have to say.
And I think that's very important to say, because once we establish, I mean, look, a lot of people would try to use the Ummah thing to include just right now we have foreigners who live in Somalia and they live there for quite thousands of years, but yet these people are claiming to be the indigenous people of this land, even though we know they've been there for less than 1,000 years. So these are things that we're trying to avoid. Right now, they are as Somali as everybody else, like nationally, but they're not ethnic yet. But they can't be ethnic. But the point is, like the brother said, I mean, if we try to if we try to be part of an ummah, right? We want it to be very possible and very clear that we don't intermix, as in you don't tell me. For instance, a lot of people during the Arab rule, they try to force people to speak Arabic. You understand? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
camera
we can,
stopped.
bro.
I'll get the battery. But anyways, to conclude this, for me, I'm just gonna wait for the Mahdi, right? Inshallah, when he comes, and before that, if the Somalis manage to fix the Ummah, then that's good. But I think I don't want to be part of an Ummah where the Somalis are not where Somalis are not, a very important aspect of it. If I'm not a very important aspect and pillar of this so-called Ummah, if I'm not part of, I'm not being represented correctly, there is no need for it, because that's when the Ummah thing becomes political, when only one particular people are, ruling, so
I'm
that's,
gonna make a mad statement. Yeah.
yeah, go on.
Somalis would have been slaves if it wasn't for the Ummah.
Sorry?
I
Somalis would have been slaves if it wasn't for the Ummah.
I disagree,
What?
but
Disagree,
disagree
actually.
with that
I disagree.
strongly.
Yeah,
So
that's
Wait,
crazy.
wait,
That's a
wait.
mad
the
Before we
statement.
Ottomans didn't
disagree,
help the Ajuran
let's
Sultanate.
let him expand on his point.
So the Ottomans, if the Ottomans didn't come and help the Ajuran Sultan, I'm not saying that the Ajuran weren't capable enough of fending the Portuguese, but if the Ottomans didn't come and help the Somalis as a people, the Portuguese may have had an edge and actually taken over our lands the way they've taken over the coast of Tanzania, Mombasa, all the way down to South Africa, all the way up to north, all the way from West Africa. From West Africa down to South Africa, all the way to the fringes of Mogadishu, bro. If the Ottomans didn't help us out, there would have been a high chance and high likelihood that we would have been taken over and enslaved.
Um, I get your premise, but I'm gonna have to disagree because I'm pretty sure the Ajuran Empire were fighting the Portuguese independently, not with the Ottomans. I think it was the Adal Sultanate that was fighting with the Ottomans.
No, the Ajuran
anyway,
definitely
I was
got help
gonna.
by the
I know
Ottomans.
this subject quite well. Regardless, I know I've read the books from the Portuguese soldiers who actively took part in the conflict. Anyhow, bro, the majority of the conflict between the Portuguese and the Ajuran was fought independently between the two entities.
Yeah.
Also, you have to know that the ports like Mombasa and these areas that were taken by the Portuguese, they were also Muslim areas. In fact, the Ottomans tried to fight the Portuguese to take these areas back, and they lost eventually. Even with the Somali support, they still lost it, and they weren't able to recover these areas. So I don't agree with the statement that the Ummah saved us from slavery. But the Ummah did not save
Second,
the Ummah did not save like the Mombasans and the Mombasa Muslims from Portuguese conquest. Also,
Or even
to
the Arabs
add on to
enslaved them
that,
as well.
So they weren't
add on
strong
to
enough to
that,
take back those
to add on to
lands.
the, I was going to add on to like what made Adrian's win at the end of the day. It was because of their ability to build defensive fortresses, walls, and their ability to offer a resistance in a way in which the Portuguese didn't encounter before. So even I
and
think
an
it was
equal navy.
Tristão.
Yeah.
Even Tristão da Cunha, when he tried to attack the walls of Mogadishu, he explained that the walls were so high, and the troops were mobilizing on top of the walls. He explained that it was impossible to take it, And even then, 30 years later, they brought an entire navy, and the navy was able to bombard. I think they bombarded the walls of the city. They were able to take up a Turkish ship was patrolling outside of the city and in defense, along with that Iran navy. But they were able to take the Turkish frigate that was encamped outside of the city. They took it. They took them hostage, and but they tried to get fire onto the city. They couldn't. For 2 months, I think they besieged the city. In the end, they came with a peace proposal and offered peace, and the Algerians accepted. And then that was the end of that conflict. It had nothing to do with. In fact, the Turks and
Yeah,
the Turks of the Ummah, they didn't even help the situation,
yeah.
Because there
regardless.
was no
So
coalition and they didn't fight the war together.
That
Yeah.
They
that was
didn't unify their
the
power.
Adal Sultanate, brother. That where
yeah, even
they
before that
yeah
battle, I think the second battle of Mogadishu, that was in 1442. The previous battle where Tristão and the Portuguese navy, after attacking Baraba, tried to take Mogadishu, they failed. The walls were too high, and then they tried to get the Algerians in the city of Mogadishu to surrender. They offered like captives, and they offered us a proposal to surrender, and the Algerians just responded by killing the envoy, the Portuguese
the
envoy.
emissaries. Yeah,
And yeah, the emissaries were killed, and then Tristão tried to besiege the city. He couldn't, and he retreated, and that was the end of
yeah.
that battle. There was
And,
no Turks at that time.
secondly, I feel like you're taking away a crucial factor, which is the Somali nature, that they are very prideful people, and they are, even the British themselves called them an unenslavable race. That the Somalis do not see themselves as inferior to anybody. So with Islam, without Islam, I think that nature was within us before Islam anyway. And
Yeah,
then
you know,
Islam just further gave us legitimacy in terms of the Arabs. You know, you can't enslave a Muslim. Do you not understand? But even if we weren't Muslim, they couldn't enslave us anyway. You know, that's my
That's
opinion
true.
personally. You know,
But there was
even if
collaboration in the
guys,
scene.
give
They
me,
did
Even
have a
then,
navy force.
the
guys,
collaboration didn't help the Kilwa Sultanate of Mombasa. They got taken over by the
guys, can you hear
Portuguese.
me?
Turks didn't help them.
yeah,
We
Key,
helped
bro.
ourselves, I think.
Yeah, can you pause for a minute? I need to check